Hi, thanks for stopping by. I'm Donovan from Dreaming of Your Next Hook Set. In today's video, my papa will be demonstrating better options for hook placement in live bait and cut bait. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this video, and don't forget to hit the notifications bell for more up and coming videos. Thank you, and thank you for stopping by, and enjoy.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jeff Garcia from Dreaming of Your Next Hook Set. Channel catfish, and all the different types of hooks that you can use to catch them. Well, let me share a little bit of my knowledge and my opinions and what I think, what's worked for me. This is all from trial and error and spending the money. Channel catfish, they're everywhere in the United States. But some places have the jewels that I like to call the trophies, the jewels. And let me tell you a little bit about myself first. If you haven't ever watched any of my videos, I live in the Midwest in Rockford, Illinois. We are, 15 minutes from Beloit, Wisconsin. I mainly fish the Rock River. I've fished the Kishwaukee River a few times, but the Rock River is the one that I fish the most. And the Rock River runs from way up there north Wisconsin. So it runs down towards us, towards Rockford. And the channels over the years, they say from late 90s when I started fishing for them, targeting channel catfish, they run from about a pound to about 10 pounds. I did catch 2 points away from 14 pounder in the Fox River. And that's about the biggest I've caught in near here. But most of the time they range 4 pounds, 5 pounds. You know, those weights right there. But yeah, channel catfish, there's so much equipment nowadays and so many rods, species specific, targeting just channel catfish rods. But the truth of the matter is that channel catfish are not very hard to catch. They don't require really expensive equipment. What I would say about channel catfish, depending on the body of water that you're fishing, whether there's a lot of heavy structure in it, a lot of cars, you name it, tires, a lot of debris in it, that's going to determine what line you use. But for the most part, 15-pound test, 17-pound test, 14-pound test, 14, 15, 17 could do it. If you want to stay on the safe side in case you tangle with a flathead by accident, I would do probably 20-pound test. But what do I use? I use braid. I use 30-pound braid. But there's some parts of the Rock River that 30-pound braid is not going to be enough because it's very rocky. They don't call it the Rock River for no reason. But we have heavy rock in the Rock River. We have a lot of silt too in some areas. But yeah, when it comes to channel catfish, I can tell you this, from the late 90s, my preferred hook is a Kale hook. In the late 90s, I started with a J hook, but Kale hook started making it to the scene here. The first place I seen a Kale hook style hook was in Big Lots, and I bought me some. I had never seen it, just looked weird to me, and I bought it. I bought that type of hook. I had been to Florida and ran into circle hooks, but we weren't really using them in freshwater to target catfish. Well, at least not here in the Midwest. And Walmart's, Kmart, they didn't have them. They didn't have none of those, KOs or circle hooks. They had the traditional Eagle Claw J hook, whether it was a bait holder or a plain shank hook. The 084 hook from Eagle Claw. and the other one is a 186, I believe, bait holder, bait hook. And that's usually what you use. Maybe you used a 1/0, or 2/0, but usually it was smaller for channel catfish. Excuse me again. So when I ran into those hooks at Big Lots, I was like, what kind of hook is this? And I bought me a pack of them. And I was in Beloit, Wisconsin visiting my brother. And we were fishing. During the day, we were fishing. And we were catching a bunch of bullheads. And I decided to use a kill hook. And I believe at the time, those kill hooks were like a 1/0, if that. They weren't very big ones. They were 1/0s and smaller. So that night it got late and the bullhead stopped biting. And I started using them, and man, it was like magic. I felt like it was magic, because before I used to have to sit by my rod, and I like to move around when I'm fishing, especially at night. It gets a little boring sometimes. You want to move around and you walk away from your rod. For the old timers back then, that was nerve-wracking. They hated for you to even walk away from your pole, because usually that ended up in a pole in the water. But when I got those hooks and I went from a J hook to a Kale hook, man, I noticed the hookup ratio was like totally, it couldn't compete. And you could walk away from it. Just have your pole in a rod holder. You could walk away, and if you had a nice pole, a medium action pole, you could pretty much get them. Medium light would work, and medium, I would say medium light, medium or medium light. Those are the type of poles we had. And I used a lot of surf type rod, like 9-foot rods or 8-foot rods. And I used the Kale hook that season, and every fish that bit got caught. So I was like, man, I'm not using a J hook no more. I'm going to go to a Kale hook. And it took years before Walmart had Kale hooks. Matter of fact, I want to say from that point on, I didn't see Kale hooks in Walmart for probably, Walmart started getting Kale hooks, I want to say around 2000, 2010, I believe. I think it was 2010, 2012, somewhere around there. They started getting little assortments, and there was mixed hooks in it, J hooks, bass hooks, or just live bait hooks mixed with a bunch of different types of hooks, and you'll see a Kale hook in there, here and there. And then after a while, I started seeing small packages of Kale hooks, 1/0, 2/0. That was it. And Big Lots stopped selling them. I don't know what happened. I couldn't find them anymore. And luckily, Walmart had the 1/0 and the 2/0. And I started buying them. I started buying them. Then I thought, you know what? Let me start looking for these in bulk. And I got my first, I think it was 100 pack. That was back then when they were selling them for like, I don't know, $11 for 100 pack. At most $15 for 100 pack. And I started experimenting with 1/0, 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, 5/0, 6/0, 7/0, and I just bought all the sizes because I also targeted flatheads. So what happened was I started using them and learning how to use them too, because Kale hook, honestly, it sets itself, but the thing with Kale hook that people have to understand, Kale hook is a real good hook if you put the right bait on the right size of hook. They always tell you, depending on the size of bait that you're going to use, that determines the size of hook you're going to use. Well, in this area, if you guys paid attention from the beginning, you run into a 8-pound channel, 10-pound channel here and there, but it's not consistent. It's not consistent, at least in my experience. Okay. But I started fishing in Beloit, And in Beloit, you can run into them. They come down that Rock River from up north from Wisconsin and stuff. And let me tell you, when I mentioned earlier about trophy catfish, trophy channel cats, there's a few places close to me. Well, there's one place in particular close to me. It's the chain of lakes in Wisconsin. There have been reports that you can catch them 20 pounds over there, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. And some people have said even 25. I don't know how true that is. But the other river that's known like the trophy capital for channel catfish is Minnesota, the Red River that runs in between Minnesota and North Dakota. So they got trophy channels. They're big, 20, 25 pounds. Actually, 20 pounds, they say it's a norm. It's a norm. Excuse me, it's a norm. You usually catch them 17, 20 pounds, consistently. So that's on my bucket list. It's been on my bucket list for a couple years. I've been wanting to go up there and do some fishing. But along the way, I've fished other states and stuff. And some of the channels, I think the bigger channels, I'll be real honest, I've caught the bigger channels here in my hometown. And it could be hometown advantage. I know the waters and stuff. It could be that. But for the most part, what we're going to be talking today is my favorite hook, the Kale hook. We're going to be talking about the circle hook. And of course, where we started with the J hook. And I'm going to demonstrate a couple of hooks. And I'm going to tell you like the ones that I have the most experience with. And I can tell you right now, Kale hook is my favorite hook. Kale hook, bar none, is my favorite hook, but certain sizes. And when you get into bigger baits for channel catfish, when you're targeting bigger channel catfish, 15, 16 pounds, or you're using just a bigger bait, period. You want to use a bigger bait to see if you catch a bigger channel, because I'm sure there's some big channels, even in my river. I'm sure there is. But I've never heard of anybody catching them, consistently 15 pounds, 13 pounds. No, you don't hear about that. Those are long night fishing. I could like to call that, because you start using a bigger bait and it could be a long night before you might catch a flathead before you even catch a channel on a big bait. But they got Kale hooks, makes a Kale hook for all size of baits that you want to use. I know it can be confusing picking out a hook, but I'm going to try to guide you to the hooks that I've used. Like I said, from the late 90s, 2000s to now, it's been the Kale hook, and I'm just going to go ahead and share my experiences with it and why I still use it today. And I even use it to target trophy flatheads and blue catfish. So most of my blue catfish that I've caught have all been on a Kale hook. Mostly all of them. Even my PB has been on a Kale hook. So I'm going to share some of the sizes that I use. I'm not going to get into brands, because everybody's going to have their own preference when it comes to a brand. But I'm going to tell you what worked for me and what I stick to as far as Kale hooks. Circle hooks, I got into the circle hooks in the late 2000s. So I know a few good brands. I have a brand that I really like, but I'm going to do that on the brand video. I'm going to make a video of the top brands when it comes to Kale hooks and circle hooks. But this one's just going to show you what they look like and the sizes that I use for certain baits. Baits are going to range from, we're going to start with the very first one, bluegill, green sunfish, gizzard shad, threadfin shad, suckerfish, pieces of pieces of carp, baby carps. I mean, you can use these hooks for liver too, the Kale hooks. But I'm also going to give you some circle hook options, because like I said, I've studied those out too over the years. And channel catfish, like I said from the beginning, it's not a mystery how to catch them. If you can focus on the right bait size for the right hook size for the right bait, you'll be good. And then the other thing would be location. you know, knowing your locations where these channels are going to be, you know, because the channels change with the seasons. Just know that Mustad's kill hook and Owner's kill hook and Eagle Claw and Mom and Pop's kill hook, they're not all going to be the same. When you buy a 5/0 from one company, the other 5/0 might be smaller or bigger. So you're going to have to experiment with what you like. And the bait, what also is going to determine a lot on what size of hook you get is by you trial and error, being out there in the water and using certain baits. You know, whether you're going to you're going to use cut bait, what size of cut bait you're going to use, what size of channel catfish you're targeting, you know, because like I said, the Fox River, which is not far from here, in an hour I can be in some good water, some real nice Fox River water where they got some big ones there, you know, 16 pounders. I've seen 16 pounders with my own eyes. And like I said, I caught that 13 pound. It was, excuse me, it was almost 14 pounds. And the guy that was there, he had the 16 pounder and he had, I think, one 13 pounder or two, and he had a 14 pounder like mine. And those man, those aren't regular here in this rock, in the Rock River here. Those aren't regulars. Like I said, I think in Beloit, I caught a 12 pounder was the heaviest that I caught in Beloit. I think it was 12 pounds something. Since the early 90s, I went from a J hook, of course not this size. I'm just showing you what a J hook looks like. I went from a J hook to a KO hook. This is a KO hook design. That was a J hook design. And this is a circle hook design. Where I live in the Midwest, close to Wisconsin, our channel catfish range from 1 pound to 10 pounds. Occasionally you'll catch a 12 pounder, 13 pounder. So these are the hooks that work for me in my area. And I've used them for a long time. They're actually my favorite hook. I do love the circle hooks, but I love my KO hooks a lot more. I feel that these two styles of hooks were designed and made specifically for the conservation measure. I use these for so many years, these KO hooks, that I don't miss fish with these. I've missed fish with circle hooks. There is some key things that I want to mention. When you're targeting from 1 pound to 10 pound channel catfish, in my opinion, okay guys, in my opinion, from all the years since the late 90s, these are the hooks that I've been using. The 2000s, like 2005 and 2000 and probably 8, I started using these a little bit here and there. But then later on, I started using them a lot. So anyways, there's some key things that I have to let you know. For the area where I live, a 1/0, a 1/0 KO hook, a 2/0 KO hook, and a 3/0 KO hook is more than enough. Now, if you want to put a big old bait, what I've learned about these areas, if you put a real big bait and you're targeting channels, it's going to be a long night. But that's not to say, when it comes to Wisconsin, the chain of lakes, they're catching them over there 20 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. I think some guys said that they were even catching them up to 25 pounds. The 25 pounds, I don't know. You know, people tell stories. As far as Minnesota, North Dakota, the river that runs in between both states, the Red River, 20 pounders is a norm. So up there, you could step it up on the KO hooks and the circle hooks. If I was to fish with a KO hook in Wisconsin, in those areas, the chain of lakes, I would step it up to a 4/0. and that should be enough. Even in Minnesota, it should be enough. A 4/0 kale hook would be enough. So if I took a trip over there, I'd definitely take me a 4/0 kale hook for sure. Let's get them out of there. But in my area, this is pretty much all you're gonna need. 1, 2, and 3. Now, like I said, you can go up higher. You'll see in my videos big old baits too. You can go up higher because sometimes I do put some big old baits because just because all these years I've never caught a 16-pounder and a 25-pounder doesn't mean that I could have the chance of catching one. There could be one in there. These are big rivers, you know. Not huge like the Mississippi, but they're big rivers. But when it comes to circle hooks for 1 to 10 pounds, I stick to this. Circle hook, 2/0, 3/0, 4/0 for Rockford area, these areas here for the channel catfish. That is great right there. This one's a little pushing it, but it works good. I haven't hooked a fish in the eye. Mortality, hasn't been no mortality when I've caught fish, so I like this hook. I really, really like this hook. But, you know, I'll use any of these. I don't really have a preference when it comes to circle hooks. I could use this one week and then put this one the next week. And I've never hooked a fish in a bad spot with this hook. You know, so like I said, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I was to go, again, I'll say this. If I was to go to the chain of lakes in Wisconsin, I would bring a 5/0 circle hook. 5/0 circle hook. When it comes to circle hooks. If I went to the Fox River and went fishing over there in the Fox River, I would take this hook. Now, for channel catfish, this is the part for channel catfish, okay? I was a little wrong here. This guy is not 2 inches. It's actually about 3 inches, 3.5 with the tail. But once you cut the tail off, it's like 3-inch piece of bait, okay? So anyways, and I'll give you the sizes of the bluegills here. This is a 4-inch and 4.5 inches. Yep, 4.5 inches. 5 3/4, 6-inch bluegill. Okay. So when it comes to bluegills and channels, now the reason I have this little green sunfish is I'm going to tell you this size right here. Early spring, man, you can't beat it. The green sunfish, they eat them up. This size. I'll take a kill hook, a 2/0 kill hook, right? Simple. Just go right through the shoulders of the fish. Straight across. Bam. As long as you leave that much hook exposed, we'll be all right. One thing I also do is I'll take this green sunfish, just like that, green sunfish. I know it's pretty bad shape. And I will cut the tail right after the fin. Cut it right off. Because, you see, it's kind of old. It'll bleed from there. As he's moving around in the water, it'll bleed. But look at how much hook point is there. See that? A lot of hook point, right? Stays above his head. It's hard to turn it. But if you want to also, with the green sunfish, I've done it this way. I can't remember the time that I missed a fish, or that maybe once or twice in 25 years I've seen this hook back into the bait. It's possible, it can happen, but I've never had that experience because I barely get any of the meat. You see that right there. Right there. I don't give it a chance to really hook itself again. But I use it just like that. Of course, they're alive. They're not dead. These are alive. I just cut the back tail of it, put a hook in them. It's basically live bait, but I call it cut bait because I do cut the tail off. So he's alive, right? That's one way of doing that. So I use the 2. Okay. In this part of the video, I'm going to try to explain with a green sunfish. When you take your 4-aught, let's say you want to use a 4-aught circle hook. You turn the bait towards you, you turn the face of the bait, the head of the bait towards you, and you hook the bait at a 45-degree angle. What does this do? This prevents the hook from hooking back into the bait. If it was to get bit by the fish and let go, a strike on it, it got washed out from the current or whatever, it won't let the bait hook itself. Now here I'm grabbing a bluegill to show you, also a 4-inch bluegill. I try not to go bigger than that when I'm targeting channels, because once you get into the 5, 5.5, 6.5, 8-inch bluegills or green sunfish, now you're targeting flatheads. And if you don't pay attention, that's what you'll end up doing. And it'll be a long night if there's no flatheads in the area, if you're just fishing for channels, if it's a channel catfish area. But here's the piece of bluegill. I make 2 pieces out of a 4-inch bluegill. And the green sunfish usually is 1 piece. You can see right there, you can compare it. They're almost about the same length, but a green sunfish is smaller than a bluegill at 4 inches. Right there, I'm grabbing that 4-aught circle hook, and I'm facing the bait towards me, and I'm going in from the left side and ending up on the right side. And this is for the sole purpose of not hooking back into the bait. Look at that. That's perfect. Do all your sunfish like that, green sunfish, pieces of bullhead, chub, creek chub, suckerfish, whatever, when you're targeting your channels, and your hook won't hook back into your bait. So I just wanted to explain that to you. And you can use, anything. You can even liver if you wanted to. But right here I'm measuring. It's a 4-inch with the tail. It looks like it's like 4.5 inches. So yeah, I'd stick to about 4-inch, 4.5 inches on the bluegills and 4-inch on the green sunfish. Cut them in pieces. The green sunfish, I use it the full piece because it's a small piece. They can swallow that down with no problem. No problem at all. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, you could do sucker, shad, bluegill, sunfish, any type of sunfish, green sunfish. I use also red horse sucker, pieces of red horse sucker. That works really good. Now before I let you guys go, here's the kale. You can take a 3-aught, a 2-aught, a 1-aught, and it should work just fine. The same method, hook it the same way. Start on one side and go at a 45-degree angle. Don't go straight across. Smaller hook for snaggier areas. Just make sure you have the barb exposed. You guys have a nice night. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take it easy. I think it's this way. Yep. Big old sucker, golden sucker. But that's the size right there. That's probably like a 2-inch piece of chunk. The pieces that will catch you 10+ pound channels. Here, just remember, cut the ends because it'll spiral in current. It'll spiral. Here's another good piece. The tail is also a good piece, but this is as far as you go. On the tail part, since it's got scales on both sides, take the scales off on one side so it can let out a lot of scent out in the water. But yep, there you have it. Prime bait for channel catfish. From Dreaming of Your Next Hook Set, this is Jeff Garcia. Take it easy. Have a good night.